we massively overestimate what we can do in a year and completely underestimate what showing up over time gets to look like. And I really wanted to like just touch base on that in just like documenting again what showing up here gets to look like for me in this season of like, showing up here on YouTube and how it's landed and or what's going on. And I feel, yeah, and just seeing like how my take, how it used to be for me and how what it is now, and what I am doing and how I'm reflecting on how things are for me moving forward and stuff like that. And yeah, I remember like when I've wanted to, before I like decided like, okay, let's commit to showing up here every single day. How like, yeah, I wanted to come up here and be a space where I would like just do, and it was a case of like, okay, we keep like posting and stuff like that, and I wasn't really getting the traction, or it wasn't doing much. And I think for me, there's so much that has that knock-on effect. The desire and the underlying belief or and how things are play a massive thing on the knock-on effect on how things are and how things are like just moving forward. So being here, committing, showing up, and I feel like now I'm at that stage, 55 days plus, where it's like we're doing a thing, right? Like it's there, and we're making. I was gonna say we're making traction. I mean, we're making traction in the sense for me, like in terms of like how I'm structuring what I'm doing. And I'm finding that, it's a case of like, oh, I want this to happen, that to happen, like all these things to kind of like show up and do. And then I just had this massive reminder. So, community that I'm involved in, we had annual, just if like just to keep your status or your elite coaching level, you have to do certain things and test and whatever to keep the title. And I remember, and this is like the fourth year in of renewing, the very first time that I did like wanting to present. So there's two parts to it. There's the presenting side and then there's coaching area. And back then I was all in my head. I was thinking by the end of that year, I'll be a great be able to present or like, so when we talk about presenting for us then is like speaking, like being able to like go out there and do the speaking and all those things. And it was just like having all this plan, like by the end of this year, of that year, like this will happen, that will happen, and all these things. And then so towards that thing, we had to do like a present, like a 2 to 3 minutes. Was it like no 5 minutes call thing, speaking to our core audience and things like that. And it was okay, but it was still that underlining thing that, ooh, okay, yeah, I've got this. It was like, it felt like, I don't know how to describe it. It was done, but it was still that hesitance. It was still that like, hmm, it's not coming to me. But over the years, I kept doing this thing. So recently just had to present again. And I did it this time. And honestly, it felt effortless. But when I look at it, it's because, look, it's been 4 years. I've been doing this thing. I've been like working on how I pull in, like, who am I speaking to, and like really get to it and able to connect. That when I watched it back, I was like, yeah, me, you're talking to me. But I was just like watching that and remembering my very first one and thinking I'll be this blase, kind of like thing, and how what I was thinking that I would be and have, and how now, excuse me. Hello, testing, testing. We're still together, right? Yeah, we are. Um, how it's like a whole different feeling now. And the same is true for this YouTube journey thing I'm at. And how I feel like, oh, I should have traction by now. I should have like the numbers in, or like the few. And I'm like, this is like really showing me how much doing the thing and all the highs and lows of having seasons where things resonate and it blows up or whatever, and then you're back into that. Okay, we're back in now. Okay, let's figure things out as we go. And remembering how that event happened and how I felt afterwards, how there was no, I remember the very first one I did, how I was anxious and like, oh my goodness, I want to remember this word. I want to like do the thing and like all the stuff. And this time around, when it got to like prepping for it, I think I did like, and I wrote down the script I wanted to present, like the idea, and then like, no, this is not really activating, and I changed it up and got that down, and I got it locked in. And then there was other bits, and the way I was able to just embody it and it just flowing compared to when I was very rigid and felt like even I memorized it then, the very first one, and then the next one was just more okay, like getting into it, and how it just felt so easy this last time, like the w- time just gone. It's just yeah, because I remember that time I was like, man, I'm gonna like do, and it's only now that am I getting the clarity in who I'm wanting to serve, how like I get to do that, and people actually reaching out and saying, "Oh, come speak in our thing, come do this." Oh, I applied to for a thing, and then getting it and all this stuff happening. And for me, it was like, oh yeah, that first year, like we'll be rocking and rolling. And now we're like kind of like 4 years in, and it's like, okay, stuff's happening. So now I'm thinking with this YouTube journey, right? And I think, okay, by now I should, isn't it? Like, what am I doing? Like, whatever that is. So I'm having to just like keep showing because I'm getting to the point where it's like, I feel like I've said everything. And I'm having like, but it's a case of how do I now capture the essence of what I'm trying to do, because I feel like there is that, working on the, like for me, it's all about being aware of whatever that is, the identity, and then working your way through it. Like, what's the goal? Figure out the identity that's gonna that goal and that person who handles that, who deals with that, is living right now. And I'm in that season because this is like a whole different stretch for me, a whole different ball game that I feel, even though yes, I'm now comfortable being here, I also now to start thinking, okay, what are those elements and how does things work while still balancing a, you know, family, kids, work, everything's happening so that, all the balls that I'm juggling don't break, and figuring out which ones are those glass ones, which one are the plastic ones, and which ones are kind of like what's this thing that can bounce and be okay? Rubbery one that like it's a bouncy one, and the ones that are like glass that if you let go it would shatter. That you have to make sure you keep bouncing those, and yeah, in that space. And now doing this isn't. It doesn't feel like, oh, I have to do YouTube. It's not, because I how I've kind of like figured it out is like do a certain time. But when we're talking about like the overestimation, I'm beginning to like, Nene, look, you never know. We're still in the early stages. We're still like figuring this thing out. Wanting magic to happen right now, I'm just overestimating my expectation of what this gets to look like, or what I am wanting this to be right now, than having a look like, oh, look, just keep on keeping on. There, the magic happens. And I think that's the bit that I get to remind myself that, babe, don't overestimate what's going on right now, like how things are now. Give yourself the grace as we course correct to get to that point, and using that to help with the up and down as we get there. Because when we've looked at what we've been able to do with the presenting, we're then able to do that with showing up here on YouTube. Is my reflection, the way I'm seeing and the way I'm taking this. Because if we cram in like, oh, I'm in this thing now, this has to happen, then like does the frustration and everything starts to happen. I also remember like in the early stages where you see people who would just come in and like they tell you they're sold out, they've got this and that and that. And I started like showing up as in, oh, I want to be able to do something and make it. And I felt like the way I was responding to people felt like I needed that. And then when I got to the point where, look, forget the money, like I have to make money because I want to be doing more of this than like my, I call it 9 to 5er, even though I'm not really a 9 to 5er per se, because I'm a freelancer. Just letting that be has so helped me with that urgency of like, oh, I have to do this, do all these things in this short period, you know, and realizing what the opportunity showing up here gets to look like, and wanting to get to that point of having that traction or having that thing happen. It's just a reminder to myself. Then you're overestimating what's possible right now. Give it the grace it needs to get to that point that showing up would lead to. And yeah, that's the season I'm in. And it's just a case of like when my thoughts wanders and goes to like, yeah, your block is kind of like flourishing down that way. And this is how, and it's like, good for you, babe. That gets to be me soon. But also understanding that everyone has, the different resources and capability. Like it's just so different. As long as I'm not doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result or expecting something to happen, then I'm in a good state. So if I'm doing my thing, evaluating it, going to the next state and then keeping on, then just be like, come here and just, as if I'm throwing spaghetti up the wall and like, yeah, expecting it to stick and then wanting miracles to happen. Yeah. So that's happening, that's checking, but not in a sense that it's going to then be like, oh, I should have. Mm-mm, mm-mm. We're not shooting ourselves here. And we're just giving oneself grace and the opportunity. And I think for me, this is also a season to work on the traction. Um, Something beautiful happened today, which if we start now, it's just, I get to talk on that some other time. But it just reminded me that when or where your focus goes, your energy flows. You know, when you get to, oh, I don't want to go and do it right now. But it's so important because let's focus on try not to overwhelm ourselves. This is one of like the things that I'm working and utilizing now. Before I used to like do all this to-do list and okay, I have to do this, I have to do all these things. And now it's more, what is the result that I want to get for today? And what are the things that I have to do today to get there? What are those things? And that's the lens that I am going with right now and working with while making sure nervous system is set. And yeah, it's been, it's been amazing to just kind of like have that reflection and have that show up for me to then give me that sense of this also would, give it the grace it needs. It needs that time to mature as we keep on showing up and doing the work that is required and course correcting as we go to get to that point than feeling like, oh, the jumping now. So that's that's why I'm at and thinking. Because when you really look at it, right, even when you see like people when they start out in like for me, I remember like you see people that would sell you that like, oh, you start now, you be a six-figure coach by the end of the year or the end of the course, whatever that is. And having that realization and reminder and understanding about certain things requires compounding, certain things require the repetition, certain things require a the mindset, the psychology that will support the thing, the state, how one's feeling and how one's being and what we want, you know? And yeah, all those things play a part to getting the thing we want. And it's having to work on all those things and having to have the understanding that it's not a sprint per se, it's a marathon, and giving it that pace so that we don't get to that point of like, ooh, ooh, and then like burnout stage, and then like, oh, there's still miles to go. And I've just gone, ooh. And I know we're pacing, we're doing, we're showing, we are hanging and doing what's required to get to that point. Is where one's at. That's kind of like where I am in this space of, I can't believe it's been this long that I've shown. And it's like, okay, but by now things will be different, but it's okay because it's reminding myself of the why, reminding myself that this is, yes, it's a long game. And if we're piling up the expectation or we're piling up the things that we get to do, it, we might be disappointed. It might be like let down. But if we just keep on keeping on, keep showing up, keep doing the reps in whatever it is that one's doing, before you know it, will be like a year from now, 2 years from now. And then be like, my goodness, yo. If someone ever told me that 10 plus years in, you know, 15 year plus year in, that now walking into a space to go and do a job would just be like, oh, okay, what do I need to be? It's like the amount of like prep work for certain places is actually non-existent for me right now. Whereas like before, I have to like prep for this and that and like all these different elements. Now it's like making sure, checking who am I speaking to, like all those different things. It's a whole different thing from where I started. And I was thinking I was gonna be like this thing in the beginning, but I say all that to say it's like even like when we look at where like what I'm doing now and how far I am and how long it's taking me to get here, and then what I'm trying to do now, yes, we can go further faster once we, if everything is right, our state is right, our focus is right, what we want, like all the different things, there's certain things that can help us go further faster. How we're thinking, we're like focusing on our belief systems, all those things, 100%. At the same time, certain things need that repetition to the consistency, they're showing up to make things happen. So having that, bearing that in mind and having all those things is so is vital, it's gold, because it's a reminder that as we do the thing, we get better. So don't feel like one needs to cram everything in, one needs to like put everything all, I was gonna say in the basket, whatever. But it's, yeah, it's having that understanding, having that knowing that we just get to keep showing up. We kept to keep reminding ourselves who we are. And then looking back and just be grateful, like, oh my goodness, I remember when I used to be so concerned or be so this, and I wanted all this stuff or to be, and now it's like, huh, let's do this. Let's show up, or let's whatever that is for us. it is possible to, it would happen. And before you know it, it is here. As long as we are still on the race, on our own race, keeping on, and not allowing anything to sidetrack us or whatever that is. So, yeah, that's how I am dealing with this season of the expectation, the overestimation, the way I'm seeing things compared to like what showing up consistently will look like. So if you're in that season, stay close because we'll keep evaluating what this gets to look like, how we get to show up, and how we get to do the thing we get to do. Then here, remember, your voice matters and it's your time to use it. Bye for now.